בעיצומה. אני רוצה להזמין את הדוברת הראשונה שלנו, דוקטור לירז מרגלית. לירז היא בעלת דוקטורט בפסיכולוגיה, היא מתמחה בקבלת החלטות וקוגניציה, והיא מרצה במרכז הבינתחומי ובכנסים בארץ ובעולם. כשהיא התחילה ללמוד פסיכולוגיה, החלום שלה היה לטפל באנשים, בפועל היא מצאה את עצמה מטפלת בנתונים, אבל היא עושה את זה בהצלחה. היא מובילה את מחקר ההתנהגות הדיגיטלית בחברת קליקטייל, שבו היא משלבת בין עולמות הפסיכולוגיה והביג דאטה. יש לה תפקיד ייחודי, שמוקדש לניתוח התנהגות צרכנים והבנת תהליכי קבלת החלטות בעולם הדיגיטלי. לירז תספר לכם איך אפשר לקרוא את שפת הגוף הדיגיטלית של הלקוחות שלנו, איזה תובנות אפשר להוציא מזה, ואיך אנחנו יכולים להשתמש בידע הזה בשביל לתת ללקוח שירות טוב יותר ולשפר את יכולת המכירה שלנו. בבקשה לירז.
Okay. Now can you hear me? Great, perfect. So, it's great to be here today. My name is Liraz Margalit. I'm a web psychologist and head of behavioral research at Clictel. And in today's session, I will try to convince you that if we really want to increase conversion, we have to stop talking about conversion. We have to stop thinking about conversion. I'm going to show you how, by understanding the customer's digital body language, we can measure and evaluate their experience better than any other measurement. So, I would like to start by asking you to consider the following question. What is your average conversion rate? Now, for our clients, the average conversion rate is about 3%. And by conversion, I mean a prospect that completed the whole process from beginning to end, whatever that process might be. Now, for our client, the average conversion rate is about 3%. So now, I would like to ask you another question. What about the other 97%? Can you tell me something about their experiences? Were they positive? Were they negative? Can we actually infer from that piece of data that 97% of the visitors who didn't convert had a negative experience? Now, of course we can. And the discussion about conversion is always yes and no, black and white, converted, didn't convert. And we really have to start thinking about conversion differently. Here is why. Let me share with you a personal story. Now, my dear husband, he wanted to surprise me. He wanted to buy me a gift for our 7-year anniversary, so he entered this really fancy jewelry website that he knows I like. And he sees that this amazing watch, but the watch was extremely expensive. So he decides to wait until I come back home, and in the meantime, he left the site. When I came back home, we both entered the site together, and he shows me the watch, and it was truly an amazing watch. But then I told him, listen, Ben, tomorrow we're going to take the day off to celebrate our anniversary, so why don't we go together to the mall and purchase the watch there? Now, he agreed, obviously. The next day, we went to the mall and we purchased the watch. Now I want to ask you, what do we have here? As I see, we have two perfectly successful interactions. But if we are to measure those interactions using the old classic conversion rate, we are going to classify those interactions as negative, although they were very positive interactions. So what I'm saying here is that conversion rate does not equal customer experience. On the one hand, lack of conversion does not necessarily mean the customer had a bad experience, and on the other hand, a customer can convert, can complete the transaction and still have a poor experience. So we really have to stop focusing on conversion and start talking about experiences. The problem is that we keep talking about experiences all the time. We are talking about customer experience, and user experience. We even defined the year of experiences. But let me ask you this. Did you ever stop for 1 minute to think, what is an experience? What is the definition of experience? Now, from a psychological perspective, experience is the interaction between a subject and a stimulus that is influenced by a personal interpretation. Meaning, it's not about your customer. It's not even about your product or about the design. It's about what happens in the interaction between the two. It's about what the person brings to the situation within his personal mindset, his personality trait, his set of expectations. And that's why two people can interact with the exact same stimulus and they can have two completely different stories to tell about their experience. For example, two people can go to the exact same party. For one person, he can describe the experience as fun and enjoyable, and for the other person, the food was bad, the room was too noisy, too smoky, and he didn't even like the people, right? So two people can interact with the exact same stimulus, and they can have completely different stories to tell, and the same thing goes for the website experience. So two people can interact with the exact same site, and they can have two different stories to tell. And what we have found is the different pages trigger different experiences for different people. And there is one more thing that is important to notice about an experience, and that is that one single experience is made up of many, many smaller experiences. Let's say a visit to Disneyland, for example. We can go to Disneyland, we can stand online, we can shake hands with Mickey Mouse, we can visit the Sleepy Beauty Castle. But one single experience is made up of many, many smaller experiences, some of which are positive, some of which are negative, and others are neither positive nor negative. But the fact is that we cannot remember all those experiences. Think about it. In one day, even in 1 hour, we have so many experiences, and we cannot remember all those experiences. So there is an evolutionary mechanism that was developed, and its purpose is to dictate what we are going to remember from an experience. So now the question is, how does this mechanism work? What do we remember from an experience? In order to address this question, I would like to invite here a dear, dear man, Professor Daniel Kahneman. He is an Israeli-American psychologist that is notable for his work on the psychology of decision-making, behavioral economics, and for which he was awarded the 2002 Nobel Memorial Prize, shared with Vernon Smith. So let's hear him for a few minutes.
Now, I'd like to start with an example of somebody who had a question and answer session after one of my lectures, reported a story, and that was the story. He said he had been listening to a symphony, and it was absolutely glorious music, and at the very end of the recording, there was a dreadful screeching sound. And then he added, really quite emotionally, it ruined the whole experience. But it hadn't. What it had ruined was the memory of the experience. He had had the experience. He had had 20 minutes of glorious music. They counted for nothing because he was left with a memory was ruined, and the memory was all that he had gotten to keep. What this is telling us, really, is that we might be thinking of ourselves and of other people in terms of two selves. There is an experiencing self who lives in the present and knows the present, capable of reliving the past, but basically it has only the present. It's the experiencing self that the doctor approaches, you know, when the doctor asks, does it hurt now when I touch you here? And then there is a remembering self. And the remembering self is the one that keeps score and maintains the story of our life, and it's the one that the doctor approaches in asking the question, how have you been feeling lately? Or how was your trip to Albania? Or something like that. Those are two very different entities, the experiencing self and the remembering self, and getting confused between them is part of the mess about the notion of happiness.
So, what we get out of Kahneman's talk is actually twofold. First, we understand that there are some experiences that matter more than other experiences. And there is another thing. We found out that we have two different selves. We have the experiencing self and we have the remembering self. And what you should care about is, of course, only the remembering self, because you shouldn't care about what your customer did every little moment of his experience. You should only care about what he's going to remember from his experience, because his remembered value is going to dictate if he's going to come back to your website or not. So you should focus around the experiencing self, and there are two factors that influence what the experiencing, what the remembering self is going to remember. One of these factors, of course, is the final experience. As you heard the man, the dreadful scratching sound ruined the whole experience for him, right? Although he had 20 minutes of glorious music, they counted for nothing. And there is another factor that influences what the remembering self is going to remember, and that is the emotional intensity of the experience. And it doesn't matter if we are talking about positive nor negative emotional intensity. Think about a movie that you saw recently. You're not going to remember the entire movie. You are going to remember the moments that touched you. You are going to remember the peaks. Doesn't matter if you are talking about positive nor negative peaks. So, in a report that Forrester recently released, they wrote that brands that want to break away from the pack should focus on emotions. And our emotion makes customer feel has a bigger influence on their loyalty to a brand than ease of use or effectiveness in nearly every industry. Now, everybody keeps talking about emotions, but what is the mechanism? We know that emotion shapes what we remember from an experience, right? So, just to summarize what we gathered so far, we understand that we cannot use conversion rate to measure an experience. And in order to measure an experience, we have to define to ourselves what is an experience. Now, experience is the interaction between a subject and a stimulus that is influenced by a personal interpretation. And there is another thing, that one single experience is made up of many, many smaller experiences, and we can never remember all those experiences. So there is an evolutionary mechanism that was developed that its purpose is to dictate what we are going to remember, and there are two factors that influence this remembering self: emotional intensity and the final experience. So now the question is, can we infer emotional intensity just by observing customer behavior? Now you can tell me, listen, we can just ask them how they felt. Now there are a few problems with just asking people. First, it's just not scalable. We are not going to start asking each and every visitor to your website how did he feel about his experience, right? But there are more important reasons. The second reason is that there is a gap between what people will tell you and how they really felt. And it's not because they are lying. They are not lying. It's simply because we don't have a clue. Let me give you an example. In an experiment that was conducted recently, customer brain were scanned using fMRI technique. And this technique measures changes in blood flow that correspond with increase and decrease in mental activity. So if I need to make a certain decision, you will understand what type of brain area were activated. So customers were shown different products as part of the go-to-market strategy of these products. And the interesting finding was that if a customer declared that he's going to buy a certain product, but there was not an increase in the mental activity of the brain area that are related to his emotion, this product usually fails. So we should find out better measurement than just asking people. And there is another problem with asking people, that 70% of our day-to-day interactions are based almost entirely on non-verbal signals. Meaning it's not about what you say, and it's not about where you've been. It's about how you say. It's about our facial expressions and our body gestures and the way we interact with one another. So now, I would like us to run a very quick experiment. I would like you to look at this video. This is me interacting with a brick-and-mortar store, and without asking me, because we're staying right here, but without asking me, I would like you to infer how do they feel about the experiment, about the experience. Now, what do you think? Confused. That's good. What else?
Searching.
Can't hear you?
Searching for new things to buy.
Okay, so I was focused, I was goal-oriented, right? I had a purpose, I had a certain goal, right? And could I find what I was looking for?
No.
I couldn't, so I was confused. You can say I was frustrated. Was I approached in any way by one of the sales associates? No, I wasn't, right? So I would like you to think about how much information we can infer without talking to the people, just by inferring their body language. Now the million-dollar question is, can we do the same thing in the online arena? So let's run another experiment very quickly. And I would like you to watch this video, this session playback, look at the mouse move and tell me if you can infer this visitor interaction, what was his intent, how he felt. Look at the mouse move, the speed of the mouse, direction changes, everything that you can infer from this session playback. Okay. What do you think? Yeah, but what do you think? How did he feel? You can't find what you want. So it's basically the same thing, right? So you don't need to have PhD in psychology to infer this customer feeling. You don't need to have a special degree, so we can infer. So what we thought in our research lab, that if we can find out how the customer feeling during their interaction, so why can't we develop an algorithm that will do the exact same thing? So we did, and we know from different studies that were conducted around the world that your interaction and movement online reflect your psychological inner state. All you have to do is listen. So we have been listening. For 18 months, we have been watching and observing many customers' interactions across different websites and different industries, and we found that there are 5 behavioral patterns that repeat themselves over and over again. And those behavioral patterns, those are the user's way to communicate their intent to us. This is what we like to call the customer digital body language. And we developed 5 different algorithms for each behavioral pattern. And in order to validate those algorithms, we ran those algorithms on thousands of entirely new interactions. And we found that we can detect the customer intent in an accuracy level of 85%. So it was pretty exciting for us. And not only that, after we already developed these algorithms, we decided to correlate these algorithms with different site KPIs, and of course, with the ultimate site KPI, with conversion rate. So what you see here is that if, for example, the average conversion rate is 2%, so, and the dominant mindset is disoriented. Why dominant mindset? Because conversion is not an action. Conversion is a cycle. Sometimes it takes a few iterations for the visitor to convert. And sometimes the visitor can start his journey on the mobile and complete his purchase on the brick-and-mortar store. So we need to think in terms of conversion cycles. So if dominant mindset is disoriented, then conversion rate is 40% lower than the average. But if the dominant mindset is the mindful or the focus for that matter, conversion rate is 50% higher than the average. So if you think about it, not only can we detect the visitor mindset, we can also understand the quality or the valence of the experience. And I will end with this because I'm running out of time. We found another thing, another very interesting thing, that the website interaction is a dynamic interaction, same as the face-to-face interaction. I can start a conversation with someone, calm and relaxed, and then after the interaction I can become angry or frustrated. Same thing goes for the website interaction. So you can see that this visitor was focused on the homepage, he knew exactly what he wants, he knew exactly how to achieve his goal, and then he moved to a category page, and there he displays the exploring mindset, meaning that he's looking, but there was nothing there that stimulates his attention. So he moved over to another category page, here displayed the mindful interaction. He was highly involved, highly engaged, interacts with different elements. He keeps being mindful on the product page, but then for some reason, he arrived at the checkout process, and there is something there that made him become disoriented, and he left the website altogether. So now, I would like to end with a question for you guys. We have these two different journeys. Based on what we said in the first part of the session, who of these visitors is more likely to come back to the website? What do you think? Why? So you are talking about the final experience, but there is another thing. We mentioned that there are two factors that influence what the remembering self is going to remember. So the final experience, very good. One more. What do you think? The emotional intensity, right? And how can we measure emotional intensity? We can see that the ratio between positive to negative mindset was better for the second customer. So he's more likely to come back to the website. So now I would like to, because we don't have time, I would like to finish with saying that understanding how the customer interacts, understanding the digital body language is far more important than focusing our entire efforts on conversion rate. And actually, we found out with many customers that it delivers a much better result. Thank you.